Hello. Now, in this lecture, we are going to look at a very important process. It's the process of getting new information into long-term memory. Now, there are several memory models that different researchers have discussed, but we're only going to look at one model today. It's the multi-store memory model. Firstly, we'll look at the components of the model. Then we'll see how information moves through the different parts of the brain according to the model. So first, let's look at the components of the multi-store memory model. It was proposed by two researchers called Atkinson and Shiffrin, and they wrote an article in 1968. It was entitled The Psychology of Learning and Motivation. In the article, Atkinson and Shiffrin say that there are three parts to memory. Firstly, there is sensory memory. The word sensory is the adjective from sense. It means related to sight, hearing, and so on. Now, sensory memory lasts from 1 to 3 seconds. The second part of the multi-store model is short-term memory. Short-term memory lasts from 15 to 30 seconds. And finally, we have long-term memory. Now, long-term memory can last a lifetime. Okay. Now, let's consider how information moves through the three parts of the memory. First, sensory memory. All 5 senses can lead to memories. For example, we use sight for recognizing people. We use hearing for recognizing a piece of music. Atkinson and Shiffrin say that we must pay attention to a piece of sensory information to move it into short-term memory. So, for example, our eyes see a telephone number. Now, we only put it into short-term memory when we actually look at it. So the first stage of memory is paying attention. When we pay attention, we move information. It goes from sensory memory to short-term memory. But short-term memory doesn't last for long. We must do something with the information in short-term memory. If we don't, new information from sensory memory pushes out old information. The best-known research in this area was conducted by Miller. In 1956, he wrote an article which was called The Magical Number 7, Plus or Minus 2. In the article, Miller says that short-term memory can only hold about 7 pieces of meaningless information. For example, it can hold a telephone number. When an 8th piece comes along, one of the 7 pieces is pushed out. Long-term memory is the final stage in this model. According to Atkinson and Shiffrin, we need rehearsal to move information from short-term memory. So in other words, we need to repeat information in our heads. We need to say it again and again, and perhaps again. Then it will be moved from short-term to long-term memory. So that's the multi-store model. In the next lecture, we'll look at the idea of rehearsal in more detail. Is it just repetition, or is there more involved? That's next time.